So chapter 10 is the basics of saving and investing. So we're going to talk about reasons, principles, kind of the risks of it, and the different strategies that people approach. I should have asked some questions ahead of time, but that's okay. I kind of forgot what I was doing here in general. So reasons for saving and investing. So how are saving and investing related? So savings is money set aside for the future. That's the definition from your book. It's basically deferred spending. Deferred meaning do it later on. The emphasis when you save is safety of principal. It provides security for you. An emergency fund is money set aside for unplanned expenses. So that's kind of part of why you save, is so that you can have an emergency fund. Your book, different books or institutions might recommend different things, but this is recommending that you have at least 6 months in net pay in your emergency fund. You also want to save for contingencies, which are unplanned or possible events. And then you want your savings to liquidity is a measure of how quickly an asset can be turned into cash. So you want your savings to be liquid. That's kind of the difference in savings and investing. Your saving is very liquid. You can access it quickly. Good accounts for saving are going to be your standard savings accounts, CD, certificates of deposits, and money market accounts. And I believe we'll get more into those at the beginning of chapter 11 when we look in the different types of choices. So the problem with saving is you're not really making money because the interest rate is lower than the inflation rate. So we've talked about that before, that your purchasing power is going to go down because your dollar today is worth less, or it's worth more, but the cost would be more. So kind of that cost of living inflation adjustment. So investing is a strategy to earn more on your money than the rate of inflation. So saving is less than the rate of inflation. Investing is where you want your money to grow, basically. Using your money to make more money. That's the idea of investing. Investments provide wealth, which is the accumulation of assets over your lifetime. If you're earning more than the rate of inflation, then your wealth is building. Same thing we talked about when we were talking about your purchasing power and getting raises at work. If it's more than that inflation rate, then your value is increasing. But investing is a long-term activity. It's something you kind of want to look at the overall picture. Yes, you can look at different snapshots and kind of see how you do, like in this month or this year, but it's really long term. So this is the link to the inflation rates historically, which I believe we looked at that before. I think it's the same link. And we see that on average it's 2 to 3%, but it changes every month, every year. So again, investing long term, you want to look at the big picture and not just right now. Because the idea is that you're investing for your future or those long-term goals. So saving leads to an accumulation of liquid assets. So basically this says when there's more than sufficient cash to meet your current needs and 6 months of your income saved in that emergency fund, that's when you should start investing. You want to make sure you can cover kind of what you need right now, as well as what may come up. So you can benefit from saving and investing because you're paying yourself first. So it helps you meet your personal goals and reduces your dependence on credit, so you don't have to borrow money. It will strengthen your financial position over time and helps build that financial security. The definition of financial security is the ability to meet current and future needs while living comfortably. So that's the benefit of investing. And comfortably is different for everyone. Financial security, that definition isn't changing, but kind of one person's what they consider their needs and living comfortably is going to vary from person to person. Okay. So this is from your book, Personal and Financial Goals. Remember, your book defines short-term goals as less than a year, intermediate 2 to 5 years, and long-term greater than 5 years. That's going to vary by kind of book or how people define it. Either way, so you see the short-term goals here are camping trips, going to a concert, then they have wedding expenses and owning a car, and then long-term goals are owning a house and adding a swimming pool. So those are the goals, and they have their financial goals with it. The benchmark, remember, that's kind of those checkpoints, and then the timeline, how long it's going to take. So if they want to go camping next summer, they save $50 a month for 6 months, they're going to have $300. Down at the bottom, if they're investing $150 a month at a high rate of return, so $150 a month, that's going to be $1,800 a year. And if they do that for 10 years, they're going to invest $18,000. And that high rate of return, they're hoping they're going to make money on that. That's the idea with investing. Obviously, nobody wants to lose money. But it's always a risk, which is why you want to save first and not just invest right away, because you don't have money to lose at the beginning. So how does investing prepare you for retirement and beyond? So retirement, we know, is a period of time, usually in later years, when you are not working and need to meet expenses through other income sources. So the sources of retirement income can be your IRAs, your 401ks, a pension, or Social Security. Again, we're going to talk about those also in chapter 11. Just know there are multiple sources for retirement, but you really should start saving for retirement as soon as you have your first job. So some of you, that's now, even if it's a very small amount. The reason being, interest is equal to PRT. That's the principal, the money you put in, the rate, your interest rate, in time. So the more time you have, your savings can grow, the more you're going to have in the end. You don't need to wait until you have a large amount. All right, sorry, I guess my internet is not working very well. But yeah, so again, the more time you have, the more your money will grow. So you can see this table again, straight from your book. A $10,000 investment in this top line, interest rate is 6% over 20 years is $32,000. That same investment, but you keep it in there 10 years longer, is now $57,000. So that's just putting $10,000 in the bank one time at 6% interest. Most people don't have $10,000 to just put away at one time. So there's $1,000 investment. Then down below is $1,000 per year. And below that is looking at $100 per month. My personal opinion, and again, this is just me, I think these bottom situations are easier, more attainable. So $1,000 per year, yes. So that's just putting $1,000 away one time. Where $100 per month, yes, you're putting more money away. It's $1,200 per month, or sorry, per year. But I personally think it's easier to do $1,100 each month than $1,000 all at one time. So you can't really compare these two because the interest rate is different. But if you look at that bottom row there, $100 per month. So again, that's $1,200 per year. If you do that for 40 years, you put $48,000 in the bank. But you end up getting $262,000 back. Again, that's at 7%. So it varies by your interest rate. But that's, again, you would put $48,000 away. So you're making over $200,000 in those 40 years just by putting $100 away every month. So something to keep in mind. That's why it's recommended to start saving as early as you can. Like I said, even if it's a small amount, and you can increase that over time. So then, let's see. We'll talk more about retirement later, and then we can talk about how the living expenses change, because once you retire, typically you're not going to have as many expenses. But estate planning, having a will and healthcare directive. So a will is a document that passes the title of property after a person dies. So if you die without a will, then it's up to the state where you live that whatever rules they have there. So heirs are people who inherit your money, and the executor is the person in charge of carrying out your wishes when you die. And when you make a will, you put all of that in there. So your healthcare directive, aka a living will, is a document that describes your wishes at the end of your life. So in your teenage years, this isn't something you will probably be thinking about, but it's good to be knowledgeable, especially and once you have assets and things that kind of will be worth something. You do want to think about these things. It doesn't just have to be when you're old, because accidents happen. But your living will, so again, that's for the end of your life. It's someone who can make those healthcare decisions for you. So as a teenager, that's going to be your parents. And it typically will still be your parents until you get married. Then it's typically your spouse. But maybe you don't have a great relationship with your parents. Anything can happen. You want to make somebody that's going to follow out your wishes, your in charge, your healthcare directive. And it'll be important that you talk to that person about kind of what your wishes are, and that they don't let their emotions take over. And so investing helps prepare for estate planning. So your estate is all that a person owns, their assets minus the debt owes at a time of their death. So it's the process of preparing a plan to transfer assets to loved ones during the lifetime and at time of death. So investing essentially leads you to have an estate, leads you to your wealth, and then how it's going to be split up when you are no longer here. And then a foundation is a fund or an organization established and maintained for the purpose of supporting an institution or a cause. So those are like charities, and some people leave part of their estate to different charities or foundations. Let's see. So just to kind of go back before, so that's the last slide for today. A couple of things. So investing, again, the difference is using money to make more money, where saving is setting money aside for future use with the emphasis on safety. So having that safety net there. Savings accounts are more liquid. They tend to be insured. You should begin retirement planning as soon as you can, that first career. It's important to keep your savings safe, essentially, when taking no risks so that you don't lose money, because in the beginning, you don't have money to lose. You want to make sure you have money in savings or very liquid that you can access quickly in short term needs or emergencies. I think that's mostly it. You want financial security, whatever that looks like to you. A lot of people, when they start and get their first job, they will be living paycheck to paycheck or putting very small amounts of money away, or just getting caught up on other bills. So the goal is to get away from living paycheck to paycheck and having financial security, having that money in the bank. So if something comes up, you can afford it. Um, but that was pretty much it. If you have any other questions, I believe I put, I don't remember, I think it's 1 through 23 for tonight's homework. It'll be the same way from before. You can either type it or you can handwrite it. Like I said, I plan on doing some sort of survey to kind of ask preferences. But if you have strong preferences, feel free to share them with me now. In the chat is fine. And other than that, you guys are free to go, and I will see you tomorrow. If you have questions, I will stick around.